Touchscreens are changing the way I'm viewing running my games. The more I use my setup, the more I love how versatile and easy it is to use for me and for my players. But I keep asking myself, what else can my touchscreen do to enhance my game? Well, today, I'm going to show you how to create touchscreen interactable environments that are sure to draw your players into a whole new level of gameplay. That's right, touchscreen tables are more than just a fancy way to move miniatures on a screen. Where this is still a really cool feature that mimics playing with traditional miniatures, it would be a waste of a touchscreen just to leave it there. Why not teleport your players into the environments and allow them to engage in the story in a way that feels intuitive and immersive? Do your players often have a base that they return to often or a bastion? Why not make it an interactable environment? Do your players often find themselves in taverns? Why not make them feel like they're at the table and actually there? Do your players often forget the names of important NPCs? Or how about they forget the main objectives of a quest if it's kind of a longer one? It'd be great to have places to store all this information for them to be able to interact as they would as the player in the stories themselves. This is why interactable environments are so much fun and bring a whole level of immersion into your games. Many Foundry users are already spending time making landing pages for their players. Well, I'm going to be taking this idea and taking it a few steps farther. In order to follow along, you're going to need to have some kind of a photo editing software that can produce a PNG file. It also helps if you have an AI generating tool, but that's really an optional piece. Most of these images you can find online. Make sure to stick around to the end of this video, because if you find any types of this creation difficult or too time-consuming, which is a real possibility, I have an amazing trick that'll do most, if not all, of the heavy lifting for you. Believe me, you are not going to want to miss it. By the way, if you enjoy this content, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Your support means we'll be able to continue making content like this in the future. There are 4 different types of scenes that you'll want to create. The first one is called a linking scene. These are often used as main pages that your players link to other scenes or information. The second type is informational scenes. These just provide information to your players, like names, maps, notes, things like that. The third type is a top-down scene. This will most likely mimic being at a tavern table or maybe at a campfire. The last one is a location scene, which gives your players a view of what they might see in that location. Now that we understand the different types of scenes that you can create, it's time to create a list of locations that your players will go to the most. Once you have your locations picked out, you can decide which types of scenes you want to create for each one. You will not want to create a scene for every single location. It's just way too much work. Instead, focus your time on making a few key locations that look really amazing. Using my Tuesday night campaign, The Veil of Shadows, as an example, here is the list that I came up with. First and foremost, I need to make a main landing page that's going to be a linking page. On this page, I plan to have NPC photos with links to journals, current quest goals, past adventures, notes. A mirror is very important to my campaign, so I'm going to include a page for that, as well as, of course, a world map. I'm also going to be creating some additional pages as well. They'll include an abandoned castle that serves as base for my campaign, a dwarven city, a human city, a city college, which is very important as well, some different types of taverns, and a campsite. In these locations, I'm also going to be making sure that I have both a top-down view as well as a landscape view for most of these cases. Now that I have my list ready, let's build one scene from each one of these different types of scenes. Let's begin by creating a landscape page. Now I'm going to be using an AI image generator, but you really don't need one for this piece of the process. Now, it doesn't matter which image generation tool that you use. For me, I'm going to be using Adobe Firefly because it's already a part of the packages that I already subscribe to. So I've gone ahead and entered into my image generator what it is I'm looking to find. I'm going to hit generate. The trick with image generators is to try and try and try again. As you can see, the first time that this campsite showed up, it really wasn't that bad, but I still needed to refine my search to get exactly what it was that I was looking for. So let's go ahead and see what I end up at the end with. So here I am after a lot of trial and error, and I really like this third image right here. It really captures the feel and the environment that I want to go for. Now that I have my image selected, I'm going to take this photo over into Photoshop to do some additional editing. You may be wondering to yourself, why is it that all my images that I'm producing are all in portrait mode instead of landscape mode? And that's a great question to ask. You see, at my table, my players are on all sides of the screen. If I had all my content in landscape mode, then half of my players would be looking at that information upside down, which is not fun at all. With the orientation set to portrait mode, then all my players will be looking at the screen from the side, which is not great, but at least it's the better option for all of my players. Now, landscape scenes don't necessarily need to be edited, but I'm going to be showing you an extra little feature that's quite cool and is definitely worth the extra effort in some cases. Using the magic wand or the quick selection tool, I'm going to be selecting the farthest background of this image. Now, I'm not really intent on doing this perfectly. I just want to show you a quick example of this. With the farthest section selected, I'm going to create a layer via copy. Using the same selection, I'm going to select the inverse, which will select the rest of the image. I'm then going to create an additional layer via copy again. In the end, I should have one layer for the farthest background, which is the moon, and a layer for the campsite, which is in the front. Now, with only the background showing, I'm going to save this file as a PNG file. Then I'm going to select the front campsite and save this also as a separate PNG file. Before I jump over into the Foundry application, I'm going to need to come in here and change the orientation of my pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the down view of my campsite. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to say that I'm going to turn it, rotate it to the right. And as you can see, I'm going to do the same thing over here with these other ones. Rotate to the right and rotate to the right. This puts them all into a row so that when Foundry accesses this information, it'll be in the same aspect ratios. Okay, so now that we're here back in Foundry, we're going to go ahead and create a scene. I'm going to create this scene. I'm going to call it Camp 1. First thing I'm going to do is grab our background layer, the furthest back we can go, which is I'm going to grab that sky video that I put in there, or the sky image that I put in. And then for the foreground, I'm going to select the camp front, which is the actual campfire and things. I'm going to combine those and say activate, and here they are put together. Now, I'm not going to keep it this way. I'm actually going to be changing this around a little bit, and you're going to see how I'm going to do that. But first, I want to create a tile, new tile. And I want it to start here at the edge. I'm going to hold down, oh, there you go. I'm going to hold down Shift and create that edge I'm looking for. And I'm going to grab again that front piece, this front area. I'm going to say create. Now I'm going to get it and I'm going to manipulate it a little bit so that it is the same size. And there you go, it matches up fairly well. What I want to do, the reason I'm doing this in two separate layers is so that I can take an image, take these images and add a light to this. So if I wanted to grab a light here and I'm going to make it really large and big, let's go in here and make it a kind of a gross color just so it stands out. And let's add an effect on here too. There we go. So there is this light. And as you can see, this light shines from this moon area and it just shoots over everything, including the tent and everything else. But I have this on different layers, which means now I can do this. Let me jump back to my tile. I'm jumping in with the tile and I'm going to go to restrict light. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to update. And I'm also going to go and I'm going to change the position of this. I'm going to make the elevation a little bit higher. So I'm going to just say this is a level 1. And so as soon as I make both of those changes, you should be able to see that this now has a shift to it. If I grab it and move it, you can see that this is my background image, the original one. The background image has the radiant light kind of running over everything. But since I have this now new piece, it's restricting those pieces. So let me go ahead and grab the light again. And you can see that the campfire still doesn't have that radiant light there, but the areas that are in that background do. This is a really cool effect that you can put into a lot of different areas and a lot of different things. This is kind of an overkill. You could just use the image just as it is, but I wanted to show you this cool little trick. After an embarrassing amount of generations, I finally ended up with this image that I like. But there's some things about this image that I don't quite care for. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some adjustments to it to match more what it is that I'm needing. As you can see, I've gotten rid of this weird object that was in the middle of the campfire. And I'm also getting rid of this whole sky area that doesn't quite make sense either. After allowing the AI to generatively fill some of these areas and replace it with something that's a little bit better, I'm finally satisfied with this image. So I've taken that image and taken it back into our Foundry application, and I've added a light to the fire to make it seem a little bit more realistic. But we don't actually have to stop here. There's still more that we can do to make our environment more immersive and interactive for our players. In order to do this, we're going to be adding some sound effects into the background anytime this scene is loaded. So I'm going to go over here to the ambience section. I'm going to go down to my scene playlist. And as you can see, I've got a number of songs that I've accumulated over the years. I'm going to go to my sound effects one with the environments and select one that has some campfire noises and night noises as well. Now, anytime I activate this scene, the sounds of the fireplace will be able to be heard from my players. As you can see, making interactable environments for a touchscreen can be rewarding, but can also be a time-consuming endeavor. How would you like to have a developer on your side to help you create these scenes in a fraction of the time? Luckily for you, I've found a developer that has done just that. Benios Battle Maps doesn't just create amazing battle maps for your players, they also create video landscape scenes to share with your players as well. Both of these assets can be manipulated using tiles, both in the landscape scenes and in the top-down scenes for your campaign. To create a landscape scene, simply upload the Benios video of your choice. Need to make that image a portrait style instead of a landscape? Use the rotation option. Want a top-down image that mimics being at the location? Then grab a battle map without a grid and keep zooming in using the Alt key. After a number of zooms, you'll be able to mimic the top-down view as well. Benios provides many battle maps and other resources that would make it crazy not to at least check them out for yourself. Links to their Patreon and YouTube channel are in the description below. But the magic doesn't just stop there. Right now, I'll be showing you how to create informational scenes and linking scenes to your campaign. Benios has answers to these types of scenes as well, that turn hours of creation into a single click of a button. More on that to come at the end of this video. And now we're going to create some informational scenes for our players so they can access information when they need it the most. As you can see, I've grabbed another image from my image generator, but I've also asked the image generator to produce for me a parchment paper on a white background. The white background is very important because it means that I'll be able to remove it easily in my editing software and place the image exactly where it is that I need it. I also enjoy messing with the layer styles by adding bevels, textures, and drop shadows to make it feel as though this parchment paper is part of the environment. Finally, I add text to the page, which is the information that my players want to access. Now back inside of Foundry, I'm able to add my image to my scene. Additionally, I could have also used text from Foundry itself to fill in the main information. That way I don't have to recreate a new file, a PNG file, every single time the information changes on this page. And now it's time to take all the skills that we've learned in all the other scenes and bring them forward to this main landing page for our players. As you can see, I've grabbed an image here for the background. This is a library kind of an environment. And I need to make a bunch of links for my players to access. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to create this scroll. I'm going to make this into a button for my players to be able to push. And just like I did the last time, I'm going to grab this selection tool. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I hit delete. And then I grab these other areas as well. Yep, and that doesn't look too bad. Next thing I want to do is, since I have this available, I'm going to turn it on its side because I want the button to come in from the side and for it to come in from this direction here. So now all I'm going to do is play with it until I get it to the right size that I am wanting. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my image down here that I've done, and I've grabbed a few more images from my image generator, all with that white background, and I removed them all and made my list available. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add some text to these areas, the same way I did last time. And then I'm going to add some more features. So I have some cards here that represent my NPCs, my cards here that represent my players. I've got my header here that's my logo, smoke down here on the bottom. And finally, another image here that I've cut out that has a little compass. It'll represent my map. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking all this information into Foundry And I'm going to make each one of these sections a button that'll go to a separate scene. Since it's a little bit more complex, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my background so that all these pieces stand out in that first row. And I'm going to save this as a PNG, place that as a PNG, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing again, although I'm going to remove all the front elements and just have my background. I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Before I move over into my Foundry, I'm going to do one more thing that's going to seem a little strange, but it's important. I'm going to remove every single thing and have a blank canvas that shows nothing. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to save this also as a PNG file. This is actually an important piece for our next steps. Don't forget to do this one. There you go. And let's take all this information into Foundry. Okay, so here we are in Foundry. I have my background image already selected. I've got some lighting effects that are already here to go. I've even lit up some of these lamps that are here on the sides with some little flickering lights. Here's what my lighting situation looks like so far. And I brought in my assets that are going to go sit on top of that. I've already arranged it so they're sitting on top and none of those things are being spilled on by the lighting effects. And as you can hear, I've even got the music going. At this point, what I want to do is I want to make this linking page actually link to other things. And in order to do this, I'm going to need to have an active module. And that module is Monk's Active Tile Triggers right here. Once I have Monk's Active Tile Triggers activated, I'm able to use it in order to create these into buttons that'll link to different scenes. And here's how I do that. I'm going to go over here to Tile Controls, create a button. I'm going to start from out here, outside of the screen, and I'm going to create one here. If it jumps around like this, if you hold down Shift, you can manipulate it to the exact size that you need it to. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab the file that I'm going to use to fill in this space. There's that empty PNG that had no images on it whatsoever, and now I'm going to be using that. Say Select, and now I'm going to make it into an actual trigger. I'm going to come over here to Triggers. I'm going to change this one to When. I'm going to say click. So when someone clicks this area, it's going to have an action. And that action is going to be, my action is going to be to change the scene. And at this point, I can decide which scene I want it to go to. So I click this little target button. It'll open up my scenes over here on the right-hand side. And I can select whichever scene I want it to go towards. This is my current goals. And here's my current goals right here. So I'm going to select that. And I'm going to say update. And then it's going to repeat it down here. It's going to go to this place as soon as they click it. I'm going to say create tile. I'm going to do that for every section that I want to add a trigger that'll move it to another scene. Now, the issue I'm running into right now is that right now it's selecting the outside image with all these different assets as my first trigger. I'm only able to access it by clicking out here. What I need to do is I need to put these on different layers so that this layer is actually up on top. I'm also going to do this. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to right click it, which is my images, and I'm going to lock it. Lock it in place. That way I'm not able to move it around by accident. Now I'm clicking this section, this new empty invisible layer, which is going to be my clicking button. And I'm going to right click. I'm going to double click that. And I'm going to go towards the elevation. Right now, my 0 is the background. 1 is this layer that's my images, my buttons. And so I'm going to go ahead and go towards elevation 2 or 3. At this point, it means that when I select here, I'm selecting that background layer. And when I select now, this is now on top, so it's not going to interfere. I'm going to do that for each one of these sections, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I've gone ahead and added my tiles to each one of these sections, and I've placed them all on that top layer so that they're all accessible and able to be used by my players, which means as soon as they click on this, my players do, they'll be able to jump to those specific scenes. I've even added a special tile here for my players so they can add in special notes. And so what that tile actually looks like, the trigger looks like, is that it's going to open a journal. And then there's that journal that I want them to open up here. It says the poems one. And so when they actually activate this, it'll actually it'll pop open a journal for them to access. Let me go ahead and move over to the token side. And now all these buttons will become active. I'll show you what this one looks like first. When I click on it, Now suddenly this journal pops up and they're able to access this. This is really great for different session notes if you want to copy and paste them into this section, or add some photos or images or any kind of really minute details that they want to have access to. This is a great way to do it. And of course, that journal section is sitting right over here in journals. And so there's that poems here that they can still access. The one good side is that it's really great to access this type of information. The downside is that it's only going to be viewed from one direction, which means if there's people sitting on that side of the screen, it's going to be upside down for them. It's going to be basically useless for them. But it is still a great feature to use. Now let's go ahead and see what each one of these sections looks like, and I'll show you one more piece. Let's show you the mirror one for an example. Here is my mirror scene. This is an important piece to my special campaign that I'm working on, and it's great information for them to have, but then also there's a section down here, an invisible button. Let me go ahead and put it so you can hear, so you can actually see it. There's my invisible button right there. So that when they go to the scene, they get the information that they need, they can actually click down here in the bottom and it'll take them back to this main page. It's important whenever you have these informational pages that each one of them will jump back to this original location. If you watched my last video, you already know that Benio's has a downloadable campaign pack for the Curse of Strahd. That campaign pack was built with landing pages, information pages, maps, tokens, videos, and really a whole lot more. My son and his friends love the adventure that they're having in the lands of Barovia. What many people don't know is that Benio's has the same type of downloadable campaign pack for Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. Once again, Benio's is outdoing himself as he builds all of the hellish landscapes involved in that campaign. Even if you don't plan to run that campaign just yet, it's still worth downloading to see the different types of details and assets that Benio's is using to enhance that game. One of my favorite parts of the system is that it only takes a few moments to find the scenes that I need and download them to my active campaign. Once downloaded, all the clickable links and organization are all ready to go. It's that simple. Do yourself a favor and check them out today. Now that we've taken all this time to admire Benio's assets, as well as craft each one of our different types of scenes, let's see what all of our hard work looks like at the table. Well, there you have it. Interactable touchscreen environments. I hope you've learned something today that'll take your games to that next level and make it even more magical than it already is. As always, I wish you the very best of luck in all of your adventures, and I'll see you next time when we level up our crafting together.